Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. And it's a very special story time because it's another episode of Story Beats, where I take an official story deck from Wizards of the Coast and put it through its paces on Magic Arena. In case you missed it, Wizards has started doing this thing where they publish a bunch of house-made decks for each major set release. They gave us 15 of these decks for Wilds of Eldraine, and they cover every possible strategy, and most of them are pretty budget friendly, but that still leaves us with the question to answer, are they any good? So today I've got Beauty and the Beasts, a green and white deck that features Syr Armont and a bunch of creatures that benefit from their role in the story, be it royal or monster. Here is the official description. Love is blind, but it should still notice when your partner turns into a hairy werefox, right? Follow the story of Syr Armont and her knights as they seek the cause of the curse that plagues the Redtooth elves. This deck utilizes the royal role and buffing auras to play the board using the synergies between creatures to keep them safe and disrupt the opponent. So that is the game plan. Here's the deck list. The notable cards are Syr Armont the Redeemer, Yenna, Redtooth Regent, and Royal Treatment. Yenna in particular is great. Her ability to copy your enchantments means she can duplicate rolls, and that works great with Syr Armont, who buffs up everyone who is enchanted. And the Royal Treatment can stop your opponent's removal on a crucial turn, and it leaves behind lingering protection, but we're mostly interested in the role that it offers. Almost every creature in the deck, and there are a lot of them this time, either create roles or care about them. So we've got a high density of what I call tag-along enchantments, which really helps the consistency of our game plan. Unfortunately, our removal is mostly Werefox Bodyguard, which is kind of fragile, and Curse of the Werefox, a 3-mana sorcery that starts a fight. Note that it's not even a one-sided fight, or a bite, as we would call it. The opposing creature does get to deal damage back, which is rough. The deck definitely has some weaknesses. There isn't a lot of card advantage outside of duplicating auras with Yenna, and our removal package is pretty lacking, but we've got a lot of strong creatures in here and several ways to benefit from our rolls. So, can this beauty tame these beasts? Let's find out in today's Story Beats. All right, here we go. First game with Beauty and the Beasts. We've got both of our colors and some early action, so I think we're keeping. Opponent opens with a swamp. We're going to answer back with a plains and pass. So for anyone who's wondering, none of these characters appear in the Wilds of Eldraine story. This deck is mostly to show off the green and white draft archetype, which is about the roles. But yeah, Syr Armont and none of this Redtooth Keep stuff with the werefoxes, none of that shows up in the story. So I can't really tell you where this curse came from or why it's suddenly a problem for Eldraine or what's going on. Our opponent, unfortunately, just used the adventure half of Virtue of Persistence to kill our token before we could enchant it with something good. So now we don't really have a play here. I think we're just going to wait and cash in our Hopeful Vigil to scry, but we can do that at any time. So we'll do it on their end of turn. Opponent seems to be on food. Food and adventures? Interesting. Alright, so I don't think we need a curse. I will pick up that extra plains. So now they get to drop a hasty 4/4 with vigilance. Wow, alright. So I think our plan here is to wait, let them go to combat, and we will flash in this bodyguard to exile their Galefang. And even if they now kill this, they don't get to attack this turn. Opponent up to 23. We're down to 26. They play a troll. Cool, cool. And do they have like a fight spell to go with it? Oh, it has its own fight spell built in. I forgot. I never read this guy. Oh dear. Okay. So we are way behind already. We could play our Syr Armont. Doesn't really do a lot for us. It's just a 4/4. Normally when it enters the battlefield we get to create a monster roll, but we don't have anyone else to attach it to. Opponent now dropping an invasion on us. What is this deck? Alright, so they just happen to destroy all legendary creatures, which we were the only ones to have one. And instead of going face, our opponent decides to flip the invasion. They're going to get Marchesa out of that. And we are now very far behind. We've got 6 mana, so we could play our second copy of Syr Armont. Or we could just play our Werefox. And then enchant it, I guess? So now we have something that we can block with. And opponent's Marchesa, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't been dealt combat damage since your last turn, draw a card, lose a life. So that's a reference to the Monarch mechanic from Conspiracy. Opponent uses a bargained Troublemaker Ophi. They just have answers for everything. This is crazy. I guess we're taking a block where we can. We fall to 5. I had such high hopes for this deck. Alright, well, I think we're dead. Yeah, the menacing attacker here, along with even just the 2/2, even if I block their 4/4. Alright, so they're gonna create a troll, put a roll on it. They're gonna use that ability to try and fight us. Which they are just playing with their food at this point, because all they need to do here is attack. We're going to use our Royal Roll in response. We get Hexproof, we get +1/+1. But it still isn't enough to stop the 5 that's coming across. So we still lose. Not a great start for the Beauty and the Beast deck. Let's try it again. Okay, Beauty and the Beasts. We are on the play. We have a Hopeful Vigil into a Redtooth Vanguard maybe. Got some stuff to do. We got 2 lands, but we'll make it work. So this deck kind of, I don't want to say suffers, but there is an issue of having creatures and then the auras to go on them. You need enough of both. You need to draw them in the right order, as it were. So there are some difficulties here, and so they've got a Blight Belly Rat. Alright, so we're going to try to attack with our Vanguard here. 3/1 Trample. They take that. I think now we're going to play Hopeful Vigil, which will make us a Knight token. It is difficult, especially when you're doing only cards from within one set and on a budget. Alright, so our opponent used a removal spell on our token, but now we are infected, and now all their proliferate stuff gets just a little better. Alright, so do we just go like all in on this Vanguard? Make him a Royal. Make him have Bestial Bloodline. He's a 6/4 with Ward. I mean, 2 attacks, an opponent's dead. But we did just invest a lot into a single guy. And they afford the ward. Alright, -4/-4, drown an Ichor. That also poisons us. Oh my gosh. Alright, we did pick up a 4th land. That's actually fine, because now we can Besotted Knight. Alright. Alright, so we got something able to block their rat. Not worried about that guy. Little worried about that guy. Oh gosh. Okay, no attack though from the opponent, so we could make this a Royal. pay 2 to get our Redtooth Vanguard back. So these guys are kind of neat because they're 3/1s with trample for 2, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under our control, we can pay 2 and put it back into our hand, which is pretty good. I mean, this deck makes a lot of enchantments, and having a recurring trampling threat, the only thing we gotta watch out for now is getting poisoned. Oof. Okay. So what do we do here? Do we... I don't really want to use Curse of the Werefox. Armont will make our Besotted Knight even bigger, but they're just going to block it with their Death Toucher. So I think we just attack with the 3/1 with Trample. And if they want to trade it off with the Death Toucher, that's fine, because the sooner that thing's off the board, the better we are. And so now do I just want the other Besotted Knight? I guess I do. I mean, these flyers are gonna be a problem. Alright, so we could use Curse to knock out one of these, I guess. And we'll pay to bring back our Vanguard, even though we can't cast it this turn. An opponent chump blocks with the rat. They don't even put it on the one that they could have killed. Alright, we're at 7 poison. And they have another Death Touch, dude. That's alright. I mean, 4 trample is pretty good, and if we drop an Armont, it gets even bigger. Really just gotta watch out for getting proliferated out of the game here, though. So Armont comes in, she gets to put a monster roll on somebody. So if I swap out Besotted Knight's Royal for monster, it now has trample. So we've got 2 trampling 5/5s. That's enough to do it. Okay, so this deck can win. We just gotta get the right mix between creatures and auras and all the stuff that we need. So let's see if we can do it in game 3. All right, final game, probably, with Beauty and the Beasts. We are on the draw this time. Don't really love this opener, but I don't think going down to 6 cards is going to be any better. So we'll keep it a little slow. Opening with an Evolving Wilds and sending it for a forest, since we've got double green coming up. We're going to definitely want that. And so, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, we could do... We have Besotted Knight, which can stick a royal roll on somebody, but we don't have anybody. We have Bestial Bloodline, which can enchant somebody, but we don't have anybody. So now we pick up the Vigil. Alright, so opponent has a 3/3 Jewel Thief, so I kind of want to do my 3/4 so I have something that can block. And so the Sentinel of Lost Lore cares about stuff on adventures, and this deck doesn't really do that. So the only mode that we're interested in is exiling their graveyard, which is already empty. So excellent card. Mostly just a stat pile. A 3-mana 3/4. Hopefully handles this Jeweled Thief for a while. Alright, so opponent's on green-blue with some treasures. Organ Hoarder. What is this? I mean, is this like the Ivy Spell Thief deck? No. It's not a Troyan Beanstalk ramp deck either. What is happening here? Alright, well, opponent gives up a Triskaidekaphile. What is happening? Okay. Well, we... didn't find another land, so I think we do Hopeful Vigil here. And no attacks. Opponent continues to hit all their lands, but what are they building up to? Alright, they have made themselves a 4/6 with Vigilance. I guess we are taking 4 damage. And we do find a 4th land. Okay. So we could play Yenna, we could play a Redtooth Genealogist. Let's do that. So he gets to stick a Royal Roll, so we will upgrade our Knight. And we will also upgrade our Sentinel. Now they're still not big enough to answer the Jewel Thief, but if we find another land and we play Syr Armont, they get even bigger, and that's really what I'm after. I could also stick the Bestial Bloodline on somebody to give them +2 more. Make our Sentinel into a 6/7. Opponent taking their time with their 5 cards in hand, plenty of mana on board. And they come out with a Psychic Pickpocket. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Fortunately, they used... Oh, I guess they didn't use all their mana. They can use Jewel Thief to pay the ward on our... I mean, I would get rid of the token if I'm them, but we shall see. They return their own Organ Hoarder. Wow. Okay, okay, no attacks there. All right. So we picked up Curse of the Werefox. Still struggling with just 4 lands here. Because I would love to do, like, Bestial Bloodline and then fights to get rid of this Jewel Thief. I guess we just play Yenna. I mean, I guess we could put Bloodline on the Knight, make it a 5/5. Then both of these could attack. And they wouldn't really have any good blocks. That might be our move next turn, actually. Actually, now with Yenna, we can enchant one of them with this, then copy it to enchant 2 of them. That's assuming she's still on the board next turn. Let's see. Opponent being very deliberate with their blue-green Simic deck. They have a Titan of Industry. Okay. So the fact that this can destroy an artifact or an enchantment is a little worrisome. The fact that it's a 7/7 is even more worrisome. And so they blow up our Hopeful Vigil, which just gives us a free scry. And yeah, I want one of these lands, probably not both. Interesting choice of targets there, opponent. Were you afraid I was going to copy that with Yenna? So I think we stick that. We use Yenna to copy Bloodline. Give that to our token. That gives us another double scry. I don't think I need 2 Curse of the Werefox. Alright, we still don't have a way to punch through a 7/7, so we're going to have to wait a minute. But next turn, if we play Syr Armont, this becomes a 7/8. Alright, opponent, you have your Titan. Do you have anything else hiding up here in this very full hand of cards? Alright, so they just swing in with the Titan. So they probably have like a second one waiting. Is it worth double blocking to get rid of this guy now? I guess it is. I mean, they only get to kill one of my things, so it's not a huge loss. Unless they have a combat trick here and they change the math on me. Okay, Hullbreaker Horror flashes in, but that doesn't do anything. Alright, so they Oh, okay. So now they have a 7/8. And now every time they cast a spell, they're just going to start bouncing my stuff. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, the fact that our removal is mostly fights, and like, I don't even have 6 mana to double these or anything, so... Guess we're just gonna have to wait it out and see if we can open a window here somehow to get past this Hullbreaker horror. But it's really frustrating when your green and white auras deck, you know, they're gonna be able to like 2-for-1 me. Not even by doing it, just by playing a spell. They get to bounce like this token and all the stuff on it. And they have Cleanup Crew, which also can destroy artifacts and enchantments and exile stuff. So I think this game's pretty much over. I will stick it out just because, but yeah, there goes a token and all the stuff we had stacked up on it. And now they're gonna, what, destroy my monster roll. Fair. Yeah, so their board is just getting huge. Okay. I mean, I guess if they're giving us the chance to get rid of this Hullbreaker, we take it? Alright, so we go to 8. We got rid of their worst thing. We picked up a 3rd Curse of the Werefox, which doesn't really do a lot for us. I mean, I guess we can make this monstrous and kill one of their things. But yeah, we're still at 8 and they're at 20 and their board is huge. And they've got an organ hoarder that they can use to, you know, dig through their deck some more. So I gotta say, I think this deck is very swingy. You know, when it wins quite easily. When it loses, it is super frustrating because you're drawing expensive fight spells and not creatures that make auras or rolls or whatever. And we don't have Yenna to copy anything. And Syr Armont buffs up enchanted stuff, but we don't have anything else that's enchanted. So do I trade her off with their biggest thing? I mean, like, I guess I have to. So I guess now we play a Genealogist. He can only stick a roll on somebody else. We can use the adventure half of our Ferocious Werefox to give him an aura. So like we're comparable to their blue creatures, but like they still have something that's just bigger than ours. They have way more life than us. They have more cards in hand, more lands in play. And arguably their deck is just as budget as ours. I mean, I guess they've got Titan of Industry, Hullbreaker. Those are good things to ramp into. I don't know why this is in here, but yeah. So I think we'll offer a trade and potentially go down to 4. And then they follow that up with the Colossal Sky Turtle. Fantastic. We have no way to deal with like giant flying warded threats. We finally find another land. And we've got 2 fight spells against a massive board. And again, if these were bites even, and I could just deal 3 damage and 3 damage, we still die to a turtle. But I can't even like fight without getting my own guy killed. So like this is GG. I mean, we'll just play it out. Yeah, I can only have 1 roll on there. That's fine. We'll kill your organ hoarder. I don't know why I want to keep calling him an organ holder. And then fight that, and now my guy's dead, and now we're done. That was it. Beauty and the Beasts ended up being pretty ugly of a deck, gotta say. Ugh. Alright, well, opponent's just gonna pop off here, but we're gonna put the deck back on screen with some final thoughts and maybe some suggested story edits, ways you can upgrade this and maybe turn it into something more playable. Let's find out. Okay, so Beauty and the Beasts, a green and white rolls matter deck trying to capture that draft archetype from Wilds of Eldraine. And it did okay in Standard. I mean, we did get a win there. When it wins well. When it loses, it's very frustrating because you need the right mix of creatures and then auras to put on the creatures. I think the biggest weakness here is the lack of removal or interaction or any way to really mess with our opponent. When they had bigger creatures than ours, there was really nothing we could do about it, right? So we want to have a way to kind of answer our opponent's board, help our guys push through, because some of them do get decently sized. It just kind of comes down to having answers for our opponent's threats. So in terms of upgrades, while keeping it within the Wilds of Eldraine kind of theme here, I always talk about lands. So we have stuff like Razor Verge Thicket or Overgrown Farmland. Get those Evolving Wilds out of there. You know, they're not doing you any favors. And you can kind of just smooth out your mana just a little bit there. Beyond that, though, look for maybe Archon of the Wild Rose. Other creatures you control that are enchanted by auras you control have base power and toughness 4/4 and have flying. So this makes your little dudes bigger and makes them fly, and then they still get the benefit of the aura on there to make them even more powerful. And it's only a 4 mana 4/4 with flying itself. That still is a good card. I'm not quite sure what we cut to make room for that, because our top end here, we want Syr Armont, we want Yenna. Ferocious Werefox, I guess, could go, but we like the monster role that it grants as an adventure. Same with Besotted Knight. So these are 4 mana cards, but we're using them earlier to do other things. So I don't know, but I would try to make room for Archon of Wild Rose. If you want more card draw, Tanglespan Lookout, 3 mana 2/3. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. I mean, this guy's kind of beastly looking. It still fits with the beast theme. It's not an elf from Redtooth Keep or whatever story we're trying to tell, which, again, none of this happens in the official Wilds of Eldraine story, so you can edit this however you want. This guy, I think, is probably a better fit than Sentinel of Lost Lore. I mean, he kind of works with some of our adventure cards, but we don't really have a lot of them or enough of them that we need to reuse their roles the way that he can let us do. So I would save the rare wild cards, you know, drop this guy, maybe put in a pair of Tanglespans, and spend my rare cards on Archon of Wild Rose if I was doing this deck over again. Another couple of cards to look for. Well, Tale for the Ages. Enchanted creatures you control get +2/+2. I mean, that's basically what Syr Armont does, but better and cheaper. I mean, it's not a threat itself, so you can't have too many of these in here, but I would maybe cut a Royal Treatment or maybe Curse of the Werefox and make room for Tale for the Ages. Maybe just one. You don't want too many of those, but that could work. Woodland Acolyte, excuse me. Another good way to just draw cards, increase your velocity. It's got an adventure that lets you get a permanent back. So if they kill something that's important to you, you know, your Yenna or your Syr Armont, being able to draw that again, pretty good. Just a good flexible all-around budget card that might fit in better than, I don't know, the Genealogist or something. But the really, really important one here that this deck screams for is Cooped Up. Okay, so this, you stick it on your opponent's creature. They can't attack or block. Then you use Yenna to copy it, and it's an aura. So she'll get to untap and scry. And then, so now you've enchanted 2 opponent's creatures, and then you just use the 3 mana ability to exile from the version that you made the copy of. Okay, so then that version falls off because there's nothing there to enchant anymore. And then Yenna can make another copy of the original because she only lets you copy something as long as there's no other copies of it or stuff that has the same name in play. So you can just keep enchanting and exiling and lock up your opponent's whole board as long as you've got Yenna and Cooped Up together. So that's like pretty good. I don't know if that's better than Curse of the Werefox, but I think it is. So I would probably cut all of those. Maybe add another bodyguard because those are actually pretty good. Maybe Bloodline gets brought down to 1 because you can get this back out of your own graveyard. You probably don't need 2 of these. I think this deck has lots of choices. It's a very flexible list. It's just a matter of dialing in your card draw, your velocity, call it what you want, because you need to find both halves. You need the creatures that care about enchantments and rolls and auras, and you need the rolls, auras, enchantments, whatever. You got to have both halves. So making some changes could turn this into something that works pretty well, even in standard. But, you know, as always, let me know what you think. Leave me some comments down below. What do you think of this series so far? What do you think of these decks that WotC has put out for us to tinker with and explore? I'm having a lot of fun. I like the ones that are flavorful and story driven. Again, this feels like it should have been a side story, but Wilds of Eldraine didn't have any side stories. So we just have to make up our own. And we got some interesting elves in here working with, you know, a knight who comes in to try to break this curse, and we have an elf noble and all these enchantments and auras, and some people are royal and some are monsters. It's cool. There's a lot going on. And I think this deck with a little bit of massaging could be something that you can use as a contender in standard. As I'm stumbling over my words, I'm so excited by the prospect. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel while you're down there so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!